Aloha from Kilipohe, aka Kaniloa. I got some parts from LS for the MT125 transmission, and it's time to get going on reassembling the gearbox. First part of that is to reassemble the differential gear, and I'm going to get going on that right now.
I got some liquid moly, which is recommended by the manufacturer, LS. This stuff. Shop is pretty dusty, so I'm just going to give everything a little wipe. All this has been, washed very carefully, degreased, and then given a little coat of WD-40 just to keep things clean, or keep things from rusting. I did a practice reassembly on this a little bit ago, and I found that putting these thrust washers in with the spider gears made it a little difficult to get the shaft in. So what I found is kind of put it in from one end, put the shaft in from one end, and then push it all the way through, put a thrust washer in, push the shaft back, and you'll see here in a sec. Okay, so first thing we got to do is get this thrust ring. And this is the one with the dimples on it for the diff lock. This guy's got his own thrust ring. What I'm wiping off here is it's WD-40. And I will spray the whole thing again with a little bit of WD-40. Okay, so that really slippery. A little bit on the back side of these guys. Some on the teeth. Just gonna set that right there in the front. Oh, quite a little bit there. Then we're going to rotate that into position. Now, this is what I had problems with before, was getting the shaft in with these washers in. So what I found was to take the shaft, one side is keyed, both sides of this register are keyed. And I found that getting the shaft in is a lot easier without those thrust washers in. Get that through, and then stop before you get all the way in. And what we'll do is we'll insert that thrust washer in the side here. For some reason, it was a lot easier to get it to get the shaft through from the inside rather than from the outside. So just push that in. And go through all the way. Get the other washer. Maybe the reason it was so easy or so hard before is because everything wasn't covered with moly lube. There we go. Okay. Do have the key though. There. Okay. There's the differential assembled. Okay, so we got the differential in the vise here. It's just being kind of loosely held, so I can put these bolts in. Torque spec for these are 10.9 strength bolts according to the manual, 10 millimeter shank diameter, 10.9 strength. According to the manual, 45 to 55 foot-pounds of torque. 45 is for reuse, 55 is for permanent use. I purchased all new bolts just because I didn't want to trust the old ones after they had been removed. Not only do they have Loctite on them, they also have a little grip on the bottom side of them, so I think it's probably best to get new ones for this. And there's no procedure for tightening these, so I'm just going to take them up kind of slowly. We'll start at 20, and again, there's no pattern or anything, so I'm just going to go across like they were. Just for their lug nuts. That's 20 foot-pounds, 30. And here's 45. So this is, I think I'll probably take them to 48. Well, let's stop at 40 here. Okay, here's 40. It just doesn't feel that tight, so I think I'm going to go to 50 now. And I think this is where I'll leave them off. That's between reuse and permanent. 55 is permanent. Yeah, that feels pretty tight. Foot-pounds. Next thing is to put the bearings on here. So I went with all SKF bearings on this. Most of these Just came off of Amazon. This one, made in France. SKF are made all over the world. It's on. Spinny, spinny. This one we got to put the lock on first. Just going to use a little bit of Smalley lube to hold these bearings in. When I say bearings, they're locking pins, and they have two different sides. They have a pointed side and a rounded side, and there's a little indent in the middle here. That's where the pointed side goes in there. Actually, you know, I tried keeping this stuff as clean as possible, but man, it is pretty tough in here. This shop gets a lot of dirt in it. Slippery stuff, this Molly lube. And I've lined, you know, the inside of this has a set of indentations that match up with these little pointy bits. I've lined that up inside, so the locking ring will go on all the way. Yeah, this has to be done before I put the bearing on, so the bearing will hold all of this together. I'm not really sure this Molly lube is terribly important, especially in this part of the transmission, because you know this thing is going to be submerged in transmission oil, hydraulic oil, before it even moves, right? Because the whole thing is going to be this all sits underneath, but you know, it can't hurt. Okay, so which way does that go? This way or that way? Yeah, so I'm reviewing the videos to see where, if this thick part goes on the inside or if the thick part goes on the outside. Oh, and I see this has got a bevel, which I would assume interfaces with those guys. Yeah, I think that's right. Thick side goes on the inside. There's, you know, the installation manual of it is unclear, to say the least, of how that goes together. Getting there, almost there. It's there. Yeah, and those balls will not come out. Once that bearing's in there. Yeah, so you can see them underneath there. And that's in the diff is in the unlocked position. And then as you rotate forward, and that can slide in there and lock them, and then that's the locked differential. So pull it up. The differential can roll, no problem. Push it down, and then they get locked, and then that's it. No more movie. Okay, so it's time to put the differential in this case. I just want to show you a little bit about what I'm doing here. So I have the online parts manual on my computer here, so I can see, you know, how stuff goes together, yada yada yada. See what parts are in the PTO lever. I reassembled this already, so we got 1, 2 O-rings, and then this little pin with the be like that in the diagram, washer and everything. So I'm kind of using that as a means to help myself remember how stuff goes together. It's been a couple of months since I took all this stuff apart, so my memory of how it went together or how it came apart is not great. And the manual is, you know, it really just says take that out. Okay, great. So it's going to go in here like that. There is a shim that goes in. And here. If there's any witness mark on it, I'm going to say that way. This back. I'm doing this outside so I can have Wi-Fi. I mean, it's not outside, but it is in the carport. Move you guys over here a little bit.
Okay, I'm not going to show all the trials and tribulations I went through to get this differential and diff lock lever in, but because I had those two O-rings on the inside of the shaft wouldn't go all the way into the register. So I had to move the O-rings to the outside, and then everything pretty much went together.
Put both those O-rings stacked on the inside, and I think they're supposed to be one on the inside, one on the outside. I don't think there's enough room for two O-rings on the outside. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, it's still not disengaged. Two O-rings on the outside.
Yeah, I probably messed with this for over an hour trying to get that diff lock lever to go in far enough so that the diff lock balls would disengage from the differential. So the real issue was that because those O-rings, I had them on the inside, had two, then I had one. Then I finally figured out that no O-rings go on the inside, they all go on the outside. And then once I did that, the differential would go in, the diff lock lever would go all the way in, and most importantly, the differential lock would disengage.
This is the O-ring I'm talking about. Yeah, okay. Turning the right side spline and holding the center gear. Yeah. So hold that center gear, turn the right side spline. Disengaged. Turn it that way. There we go. And that's locked. Disengage. And locked. So much nicer that way than the Massey Ferguson. The Massey Ferguson's diff lock is broken. But that's because it's a terrible design and I broke it. So, got the new one on the outside. Yeah, I mean, these are not great. This was pretty frozen together before, so. Okay. Okay. Okay, next up is the brake. Squirt. But the first thing is this pin, because that keeps everything from turning. And it does have a little bit of a witness mark on there. So put that in there like that. Next is the balls. One, two, three. Yeah, there's a circlip that goes on the end of that thing. Right there. There we go. That is seated. Next is this cam plate. You know, that's the part that rides on there. There's a little bit of a witness mark on there. Good. And we got 2 discs and 2 plates. Or 2 discs and 1 steel. And the pin. Very important part, the pin. Oh, gosh. It seems like it's lined up. There we go. Yeah, there we go. That pin doesn't sit in there very well. It kind of slaps around a little bit, but that's fine. It'll be held down by the circlip that goes over the top of the whole thing. Okay, so on to the final drive, and one little mistake I made. This bearing housing, or the cage for this bearing, final drive slides into there. That has to go in before this, before the differential bearing is all the way seated home. So I just pulled that out a little bit and put that bearing in, and now we can go on to the final drive. So this is the housing. That's the shaft for the brake. This guy goes in here, and then that race goes on that bearing that I just showed you. And then this cover goes on there. And I'm going to try putting that on dry first, because I want to check for in play on this shaft, and some backlash. There's no specs on any of this in the manual, but it just seems like I don't want it to be too. Okay, so the way the final drive goes together, in my case, there's two shims that go here. See those guys? They're kind of bent. I assume that means they're supposed to be bent around the bearing. This bearing slides in here, and this gear goes in there. Thusly, and the shaft with its two shims goes through that and then into the brake. Yeah. Okay, that seems like that's together. That shaft is going to go in there, and this bearing is going to go into the housing. And again, you know, this gets RTV, which I'm not going to put that on right away. First of all, because I have to clean it, and second of all, because I want to check backlash. I'm going to try putting this shaft in here. Okay, that is not an easy thing to do. Oh, okay. I bet you the problem is this lip on that from that bearing is hitting the differential. So I got to back the differential out just a little bit. Okay, that's in there. That meshes up. That back in there, and that does not come out. So then we got to get this gear on this shaft and this bearing in this housing. Of course, the brake spline is in there, has to go in. Just gonna put a couple of bolts on here and see if I can get things lined up. that's it. Yes. Okay, before I measure that end play, I'm going to put these bolts on. These things have lock washers on them, so it's not like the torque is critical on them. Okay, just snug down. Now let's see what this end play is. If I can actually measure it, I don't know. There is play on that. 10 goes in there. Yeah, there's plenty of distance in there. I'm not going to bother with it any further. I just want to know that that shaft is not deadlocked inside there. If it were critical, you'd think they'd put a spec in the manual for it. Okay, so I get to take it apart again. At least I know how it goes together. Oh, of course the freaking shaft came out of the bearing. Wonderful. You know, if the surface, I already, took all the previous RTV off of this with the razor blade and a little Dremel tool, wire brush. All right, well, I'm not sure how much of that I recorded, but at least the final drive is on. Hopefully I got a recording of doing it at least once. So, final drive is on, it's glued down. I haven't torqued the bolts. Okay, so 434 kilogram centimeters is 31 foot-pounds. Okay. I didn't mark the differential bolts. I probably should have, but there's only 8 of those, so. So the chances of them coming out, not very good. And yeah, they don't have spring washers on them, so let's just take a look here. Okay, so that's the final drive done. Throw that little box away. Awesome. Next is the rear PTO. Rear PTO box here. Don't think this PTO shaft bearing Maybe it would be a good idea to go ahead and put it in. That one I have a new one for. 6303. 6303. It's interesting. This housing has a little groove for the gasket maker to go in. It was a pain in the rear to clean out, I'll tell you. This dental pick. Okay, I think I will put the shmoo on this surface since it has the groove. And if I'm okay. A little bit of oil on that. What was that? Oh, that was the fucking... Can't make this stuff up. Okay. There. Okay, so put the PTO shaft in the outside housing. You got to put the bearing in first because you can't get the bearing in with the PTO bearing in there. Anyway, there's a way to do that. This I'm not so worried about. This is exposed to the environment generally. And when I say the environment, I mean the outside of the tractor. So if this doesn't go together very well, it leaks or whatever, it leaks out of the bottom, I can take it apart. This is the sight glass I put in that, so I can see what the oil level is. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of RTV out. It's still a little tacky. I'm gonna give it a few minutes before I torque those down. Okay, off camera I went ahead and installed these wings. I didn't think I was going to do that, but then I think I'm going to make a little bracket that will bolt into this and support the whole thing so I can set it down on top of my welding table, which I can swivel all around. Anyway, so now we're going to go ahead and torque these guys. Again, they are 34 foot-pounds. And I just ran these guys all the way in. They're for a PTO cover, which I don't have. It wasn't included with the tractor when I bought it. So maybe I'll fabricate one later. Maybe I won't. Okay, that's the PTO, rear PTO finished, install. I think the next thing is going to be the hydraulic pump. Man, this thing is getting heavy. Yeah, it's close to the limit of what I can lift off that bench. So what did I say? PTO? No, I mean the hydraulic pump. Hydraulic pump. And the only bad thing about this is that there is an O-ring that seals on this face that is not in the parts list, which is a bummer because I would like to replace it. It's kind of grody. There's a snap ring in here that that holds back a bearing that goes in there, and then the hydraulic pump shaft goes into that bearing. When all the parts came from LS, I labeled what they all go to. So silicone grease, O-ring grease. This bench is a mess, man. I need to freaking clean it up. Shouldn't even be working over here. But this is the only place that's heavy duty enough to hold this thing up. The welding table currently has the hydrostatic pump on it, all the parts for it, and the issue with that is that the pump and motor kits don't come with a set of pins that are required. I thought the pins that they showed on the parts diagram were for something else, so I didn't purchase them, and that was a major mistake because I needed those parts. But we're gonna move along anyway. This is the O-ring that goes on the face of this, but is not in the parts list. Okay, 61804 bearing that goes in here. I misspoke earlier that this holds the a gear that drives the pump. Now, the one that came out of here did not have seals on it, and I couldn't get one that didn't have seals on it, so see, no seals on this one, but it's got scratchy on it, so it needs to be replaced. I'm just going to pull these seals out. Of course, they're packed with grease, so have to clean them out too. Now, slidey. do not understand how that works like that. Okay, we got our O-ring in here. We got our key here. That key goes on that face. These are really weird bolts. This one is super tight. And this one is just kind of super grody. And this one's 12 millimeter and this one's 13 millimeter. We'll go 20 foot-pounds. Maybe a little more. It just doesn't look like it's seating all the way down. So I'm just going to go a little bit. I bet that's... Oh, no, I was on the wrong mark. 25. I bet it's 25 right there. No, not quite 25. Okay, we're at 22. 22. 22 foot. Not too bad. Come on. Okay, that's all I want to do with that crappy ass ball. Check and make sure that it moves. It does. So this is another bearing on the outside of that. Same deal. Couldn't get one with without the seals. So I guess I could leave the seals on. And I don't know. The thing is, this is all in an oil bath. Okay. Oakley dokley. Next, I think I got to make that stand. So we're gonna stop here. I did off camera. I made these little. It's just some angle iron that I cut, and these offsets here that allowed me to bolt it to these mounting brackets. So now I can spin the thing around, have access to everything, not have to lift it anymore. Yeah, so that's good. Okay, well, I'm going to cut it off there. I've got a couple other hours of footage on reassembling the transmission gearbox, but I'm gonna leave that for another video. This is about an hour now already. Just getting the differential and the final drive and the hydraulic pump together. There's a lot of challenges. You know, that differential, I had to put that thing in about 5 times and take it out 5 times just to fit all the parts in there. And then when I went to put the final drive on, things didn't quite fit properly. I already put the glue on and I had to clean it all off and do it all again. I didn't get any of that on video because I forgot to press record. Anyway, in the end, it's all together at this point. So I'll put another video together after I get this one out with putting the rest of the gears, you know, stuff like the PTO clutch and the PTO drive gears and all the rest of the drive gears. There's a lot of stuff that goes in the front of that transmission. So I'll get all that together and post that as soon as I can. But for now, thanks for watching and aloha.